Hello, Louisiana. Welcome once again to Let's Talk Money with Mark Provenzano. He is the founder of Hedged Private Wealth. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. Mark, how are you doing this week, buddy?
I'm doing absolutely perfect, but it's always great to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. You always try to help folks with retirement planning solutions right here in Louisiana. Wonderful program. I'm your host, Spike Spangle, and we've got to talk about some of the risk factors that are happening for folks out there right now and what you do. Yeah, I don't know if we can avoid these or how we help mitigate them.
Right.
But we're still almost 2 years later talking about inflation.
Yes.
It's come down a little bit, but I don't know. Have you tried to buy a car recently, or eggs, or gone out to eat, or try to go on vacation? It just doesn't seem like inflation is coming down. For a retiree, their income is fixed. It's
That's
kind of
right.
worrisome.
That's right. It doesn't feel like it, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like it. That's right. And it's like, what can we do? You know, it's a tightrope walk, because when you have geopolitical concerns happening, everything in the world that's happening, you got the war in Russia, Ukraine, you've got the banks, people worry about that. There's worries all over. You go to the store, the local store, like you said, the eggs are $10.99 for a dozen. You know, what do? Well, that's when we take a harder look at one's portfolio, and we make sure that, is it sort of set for inflationary periods, higher inflationary periods? And there's a couple of things we can do on that. I mean, that's a whole show in itself, right, Spike? That's a whole show in itself. But, you know, we look at it closer. The most simplest, do you have tips in there? Treasury inflation protected securities, is that something you may have, right? Do we have any type of fixed product in there that's going to give you a monthly income? Sometimes we can also put in inflationary hedges in there that will increase with inflation, right? So there's all sorts of things we can do. We can take a look at very, very low cost ETFs, exchange traded funds. It's like a mutual fund, but it's much less expense, which is another thing we do. We look at fees, right, inside of your portfolio. But on the exchange traded funds, let's look at XLB, right? That's consumer staples. That staples is everything that we use when we go. The biggest holdings in that one fund is Costco, Walmart. So that kind of tells you where we're going. Are people ever going to stop going to Costco and Walmart? No, they'll just buy less, right? So taking it back inside the portfolio, they are things we can
It's
do.
amazing to me, because you just mentioned all of it. You mentioned the war across the pond. We have layoffs that are happening across the country, even in very large sectors. But then you just brought it back to the personal portfolio. I mean, because you can't change what's happening in the news. We can't change the inflation or what's happening with interest rates. But you can control what you pay in fees. You can try to control what you pay in taxes. How do you help folks with that? Because I know you're not just about filing someone's taxes. You've talked about having a tax forward strategy. What does that mean?
Right. The tax forward strategy is I deal with my own personal CPA out of Pennsylvania, and he is fabulous. He's fantastic. And I have referred many of my clients to him. And not only does his firm prepare returns, but this gentleman does what I do. He actually does the tax planning. He's very good at it. That's what he focuses on all the time. That's why I use him for myself, and I refer my clients to him. There's so much stuff, Spike, that he can do. We would need 10 shows on what he can do. But the biggest thing is that what he does for me and what he will do for you is he will keep you in those guardrails. Everything that we implement, Spike, is inside of that Internal Revenue Code. It's all used within the code. And of course, as we know, if you're a W-2, it's very small what we can do, right? But if you have businesses like a lot of my clients do, they own multiple businesses, that's a whole different ballgame then, right?
Yeah.
Whole different ballgame as far as tax planning. I mean, we do some really, really far outreaching things that our clients say, what? Is that even possible? And of course, because everything that we do is got supporting documentation from the revenue code, right? We never go outside of that. We always stay within the tax laws.
So it's not just chasing after returns and looking for these big numbers and hoping that your money grows. It's, hey, let's be efficient with what I already have. And that can be difficult. I know it's difficult for myself and trying to go through the tax code. What is that silly thing they said? If you've printed it out, the tax code, it would go like halfway to the moon or
Exactly.
3/4 of the way to the moon or something.
It's ridiculous.
So knowing that, and then there's constant changes to it as well. So you're paying attention to those changes, and then you know how to help folks. Would you say that your typical client or typical person who calls you that you help is getting closer to retirement or is already in retirement? Because there's a difference between those accumulating years while we're working and maybe chasing after those returns and slowing down and getting to retirement. Is that more who you talk to at Hedge Private Wealth?
It is, and we do as complimentary, we will help, say, if you do call in. You call us in, you say you need some help, but you're 3 to 5 years out from retirement. We'll actually come in, we'll sit down with you, and we'll give you unbiased advice on your portfolio selections right now. There's no charge for that. We do that for you complimentary. We want to get you to meet us. We want to meet you. And hopefully when that time comes, you retire or start to retire, you think of us. Because we do that complimentary. We'll show them where to go because they say there's no one helping us at the job. HR doesn't know. They can't even tell us what's going on. We try to call the 800 number. They say, well, we can't give advice. So it's like, where do they go? We do help those folks. And then when you're in retirement, we find that we're getting a lot of clients that come to us that came for second or third opinions and that have came with us because of how we do, what we do, the reports, our process. It's a total plan on what we do.
I've heard you say this before. So you'll actually do and run these reports for folks, and there's no cost for this. I think you said 4 different reports.
3 to 4. It could be 5, 6, 7 reports, but we try to yeah, exactly.
And what are some? Yeah, because that in itself can be overwhelming. But what do you find to be? I can't say of highest value. What do you find that clients say, or prospects, or folks who come in? What do they seem to enjoy or be surprised by the most? Is it the risk report, fee report, taxes? What is enlightening to them?
Very good question, and I'm trying to go through my mind because the risk and the fees always go back and forth. That's where literally the client nearly falls off the chair in my office. Says, Mark, why didn't I know this? Why hasn't this been told to me? It's like, well, that's why you're here, and we're going to disclose it to you. You know, the risk report is going to tell you, a lot of people think that they're diversified. They come in, they show us they got 50, 60 mutual funds, but what they don't realize is once we plug them in our software and that's what generates the report, we give it back to them and we condense it with my own report, internal, that will condense the 50 pages, and it'll show you, you were 72% in financials. Did you know that? And you did not want to be in financials just recently, as you know. So that's what we show you. We disclose that to you. You know, folks, as a complimentary, we ask you to come in, bring your statement if you can. If you're not comfortable at first, we understand. Let's just have a sit down and we'll talk. But the only way you can do that is if you pick up the phone and you give us a call at 888-339-2048, totally complimentary. We will provide you at least a risk report, knowing where your risk is at. A fee report, which you should know. Everyone should know that, what you're actually paying for a service or, right? You should know that. And also, we're going to get you your written income report, which is also important because if we can extract a little more income for you, would you want it, Spike?
Well,
absolutely,
sure.
Absolutely. And folks, that encompasses for you, that encompasses a total wealth management review, a portfolio review. We can call it many, many things, a retirement readiness review. But we find that we do have a lot of clients that come to us that are beyond retirement, but now they're trying to figure out, well, hey,
can I stay retired?
It didn't, you know, I've had a bad last 2 years.
Yeah.
What can I do now? And we will go through with them and we'll give them some detailed answers and some recommendations that I personally, you will meet with me. I promise you, you do meet with me, and I do sign off on that report, and you can take it to your state attorney, tax attorney, whomever you want to take it to, and it is going to be spot on the button from what you have shared with me. So the only way you can get it is if you call our number, 888-339-2048. Come in, Very easy. Sit down, we'll have coffee, tea, we'll talk just like we're doing right here.
You got it, Mark. We got to take a very short break right now. As Mark said, call the phone number you see right here. You can also use that QR code on the bottom of the screen there. Open up your phone, go to the camera function, point it right at that black and white box on the bottom, and it'll take you right over to our landing page. More Let's Talk Money with Mark Provenzano of Hedged Private Wealth right after this.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Money with Mark Provenzano. He's the founder of Hedged Private Wealth right here in Louisiana. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. And some of the risk factors that are happening this year, we hear a lot about on the news, but it's more what I like talking to you about is what do we do about it?
Right.
You know, the news just gives us the yelling and the worry and the concerns, but being able to speak with you, we find out, oh, there are things that we can do. Now, I know a lot of folks have heard the word diversification out there, but what does that mean to you? What does diversification mean to you at Hedged Private Wealth? Is it just diversifying the portfolio, or is it diversifying even the tools that we use?
You know, Spike, you're dead on with that. Diversification can mean quite a few things, but let's take the first one first. Your portfolio. Is your portfolio diversified, right? A lot of us think it is. However, when we run you that report that shows how diversified you actually are, a lot of clients are quite confused, and they look at me like, was this right? And of course it's right, because we have everything printed, okay, right off. It tells you where to go to get it, the same report. So yes, that is the one area of diversification, your portfolio. Now, if you take, like wealth management, if you take your total portfolio, how have we diversified this portfolio? What have you done so far? You think because you own 50 or 60 mutual funds and a couple of stocks that you diversified?
A lot of people do. I mean, you've
Right.
got 50 different funds.
Right.
That sounds diversified.
Not necessarily. Should you be in all equity? Should you be in a majority of bonds at this time? So diversification with us at Hedged Private Wealth, we look at many other things. It may be diversifying a small portion into FIAs, fixed index annuities, that the money was there anyway. Why do we want to subject any more to loss, which you've already lost, right? You've had an underperformance of the market. A lot of us had in the last year and a half. What do we do with that? Do we reposition? Do we reallocate? Do we rebalance the portfolio to where you truly are diversified, what's called diversified?
Yeah. And then, but you just also brought up something else. You say FIA, and I always like to call it jargon alert. You know, not everybody's as smart as you when it comes to this stuff.
Did I say it?
You did though. You said
good.
fixed
Thank you.
index
Thank you.
annuity. Can you explain a little bit more about what that is? What is a fixed index annuity as compared to what are some of the other ones out there?
Sure. First off, the index annuities that we use are going to be, first off, with big, strong companies, A+ superior rated insurance carriers, not Wall Street, insurance carriers. And like we've said many times before, there's no one better to put monies with that is not going to be subject to market downside. It's the big insurance carriers. They mitigate risk better than anyone on the street. That's why they're in business for hundreds of years.
That's what the business they're in, is mitigating risk.
Thank you. So your money, why would you not want to put a portion of your money with a big solid insurance company?
And I want to point that out as well. You just said a portion.
Yes.
You're not talking about all of it. You're not saying all of somebody's funds. You're saying if you want to set this as consistent income, and then we've got cash safety over here, and then maybe we've got our 401k or 403b. Talking about diversification of the tools, even that you use.
That we have at our disposal. That's right, and that's exactly what we do for you. We make sense of what you already have, and what really, you know, I kind of sit back in my chair and I say, you know, wow, you know, people really, they have a hard time getting the right answer, the truthful answer on what do they have, how is it performing, and is there anything that I can do better than just buy more of a stock that they've been told is going to go up, whether it's from the doctor, the dentist,
what about this?
whoever.
What if I moved from one job and I've got an old 401k at another employer, and I start a new one over here? Well, now I'm really diversified because I've got two different kinds of 401ks, right?
Not really, not really. And you know, we bring this up and we show when they bring in their 401k or 403b, we open the pages up and we show them, you have 11 different fund choices. Some of them have 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So you don't have, and this is one of the things that 401s are kind of, you know, they're known for. They really can't muster and have so many different choices of allocation of funds. So yeah, just from going to a new company and saying, oh, well, I'm going to be diversified over here, you're pretty much going to get pretty much the same thing as you already have. And when you start choosing the new funds, there's a good chance they're all different names. You don't know what you're choosing, and a lot of it is in the same sector that what you already have. So you're overweighted in what you actually have. You're overweighted in areas that I find a lot of you viewers, you don't know that you're overweighted.
And it's not their fault. It's not your fault. These are just the choices that you've had inside those retirement accounts at work. And you say, well, I've heard to be diversified. I've heard people do this. You got 10 funds there. I'm just going to put 10% in each one of them. Well, because we're not exactly sure. So that's how people end up being kind of taking more risk than they actually realize, because they're just using the funds that are inside that 401k. I know that you put together a retirement plan, an actual written plan, but before you get to the plan, you'll run reports for people. When we're looking at those retirement plans at work, will you run the risk report, the fee report, or actually both when somebody comes in for the first time?
Complementary, we will do both of those complementary, and it will be accompanied by an income report too, showing them where their income will be in a projected time that they're ready to start. That's why the first visit is so important, because we get to know you. We get to know what your needs and wants are. What do you want? How do you want to live? What are your dreams? What's your ambitions? How do you want your money to perform for you? That's what we're here for, and you're going to get it in a very unbiased way, because we're going to tell you the stuff you like, and you may get some stuff you don't like, but you know what you will get from us, from me, from Hedge Private Wealth and my firm? You will get the truth. We guarantee, like we say in Louisiana, we guarantee that. We guarantee you will get the truth.
I'm not even going to try it. From up north. Hey, folks, call right now so you get your own complimentary written financial plan and get these reports. You want to take your risk report, your income report, even that tax report, and it starts here, complimentary for you, by calling the phone number, 888-339-2048. More Let's Talk Money with Mark Provenzano right after this break.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Welcome back. You're with Mark Provenzano. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. He is the founder of Hedged Private Wealth. you know, there's so many factors. We can't control what happens with the economy. We can't control what happens with interest rates or stock market volatility. But we can study our history, right? Yes. And you brought up a really interesting concept to me once while we were having a cup of coffee called the lost decade. And it wasn't that long ago. What happened to investors during this lost decade?
Well, a lost decade is, the plain definition is when you see a 10-year period where there has been very stagnant growth or no growth inside of the portfolio. For instance, our decade from December of 99 to December of 2009 has been labeled, Spike, a lost decade. And why? That whole time frame, the return was like negative 0.9.
Yeah.
So
now there were
1%.
ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs all during that time. But essentially, an investor who, I don't know, if you put, $1 into the S&P 500, you basically would have had like a negative, a small negative
you did
return.
Zero.
So the reason that I asked you about this is because we saw our markets go down last year, interest rates. Can you say, I mean, do you have that crystal ball? Can you tell me what's going to happen in the next 9 years? I mean, are we going to come out of this one? Well, how do you help protect? I mean, what do you do with folks' income or going into retirement who can't afford a lost decade?
That's correct. And like you said, Spike, we do not have a crystal ball. That's why it's called a lost decade, because there's nobody can tell us it's going to last that long, right? In 2009, the last 2 to 3 years were the killers, right? Right after the housing bubble. 2008 and 2009 was the killer. So there are things we can do, and that's called getting your portfolio in order. Having a review done with a fiduciary like us at Hedge Private Wealth. We're going to look out and we're going to see what can we actually uncover. Because folks, our pulse is on the market all the time. We're reading this stuff. We have access to stuff. And like you and I talk all the time, Spike, this is not a time for the do-it-yourselfers. Trust me on this. This is not a time for the do-it-yourselfer, because there's just too much information. There's too many variables that we have to put together. We even get bogged down at times, saying, well, wait, if this is going up and this is receding and this is coming back, and we got the Fed, Jerome Powell coming out, he's going to raise interest. How much? The earnings report with companies, earnings are getting ready to go down. This is all going to affect the stock prices going forward. So,
and all of this, it's scary to someone who's heading into retirement or wondering, can they stop working and turn off that income stream? Or maybe somebody who's 2, 3, 4 years into retirement. And what I like about talking with you is that you always bring it back to the personal. That yes, you pay attention to this stuff, but we can't change these factors. Right. So what do you help folks focus on during these kinds of times?
We take what we know right now. We look at, we study what's happening in economics right now, and we try to apply that to your portfolio. There's many different things we can do, and that's why we ask you to come in, because all of the things that we know how to do and how to employ in your portfolio to have a defensive stance, you may not want that because it's not a high flyer. But just remember, when you want high flying, it's not just on the upside.
Okay, wait a second.
It's,
but you're
it's under the table
flying.
too.
You mean chasing after returns?
Yes.
Because isn't that what most people come? Hey, what's the portfolio that does the best, Mark? Put me in that one. And you go, wait a second.
Exactly.
What are we trying to do?
Right.
Because you talk about that as well. What is the goal of this money? Is it to last 20, 30 years? Is it for us to pull out $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month? And then why do we need to chase and take more risk than we need to?
That's Spike. You should be in my seat sometimes.
No, don't want it. I like the seat that I'm in.
But no, viewers. Everything Spike just said is pinpoint, dead scud missile on. I mean, it's dead on. It's dead on, because this is what we do. We try to make sense of the market for you, because your next door neighbor is not going to be you. That's why we encourage you to take the initiative. You shouldn't be frightened at all coming to talk to us. We have a very relaxed atmosphere. Come see us in the Galleria right here, Galleria Boulevard. Everyone knows where we at in Metairie. Big, tall, brown building. You can't miss us. Everybody knows us. So you come in, you sit down with us. It's going to be a very relaxed sitting just like this. We're going to talk about what's going on. We're going to ask some pointed questions, but it's all going to be about you. What do you want your money to do? How do you want your portfolio to react? What type of expected returns do you want? Do you know the risk associated with that? Because if you want returns, there's always risk.
When people say, oh, what kind of expected returns? Well, I want 7 or 8% and I want no downside risk. Well, can you do that in the market? How can you do that? Because you've talked before, I think, about how you can have returns in the market without having the downside risk. Is that in the stock market?
Well, it's actually indexed to the market without getting too wrapped up in this, however. But it's as simple as allocating a small portion of your portfolio or maybe a larger portion. Sometimes we have to pull clients back because they want to put everything in it. It would be as simple as a fixed index annuity. It may be right for you, it may not. However, that's why we ask you to come in. We'll run all the reports. And now what that will do for you, that's going to zero out the market risk. I mean, if you've just lost, say, 30% in this most recent downturn, how much more risk do you want to take? Don't we want to protect the monies that you have remaining?
What about those advisors out there right now saying, oh, well, the markets, they always come back up. You got to stay where you're at and don't worry, it'll come back.
Okay, so you had $1 million, you lost 30%, now you had 700,000. Now we're at 700,000 trying to get back to the $1 million. And, you know, geopolitical tensions right now with everything going on in the world, nobody has a crystal ball to tell you what's going to happen. We don't know that. But what we can do is put together a written plan for you. That plan will have everything in it that touches your portfolio, that is all the hot buttons. Okay, the risk. How much risk are you taking? We give you a risk report. How do we take care of the fees? Do you know how much fees you're being charged right now in your portfolio? We'll pull that out for you and we'll give it to you in a fee report. You might not like it, but you're going to know what you're paying, okay? And that all gets put together with the income report, that's what we're after. If we can increase your income, if we can, wouldn't you want that in these days and times? And that's all put in a nice binder, and it's comprehensive, written financial plan. If you're into retirement, it's going to be a review. So it'll be just a portfolio review. It's going to tell us where you are, and this is what we could possibly do for you.
You said it's comprehensive, and I thought you were going to use a different word there. It's also
complementary. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, folks, for watching today's program. If you would like your own complimentary written financial plan for retirement, give us a call right here. It will start with the reports. We'll run the risk report, the fee report, the tax report as well. Call 888-339-2048 so you can speak with Mark Provenzano, the founder of Hedged Private Wealth. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week.